Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. Tonight's story begins where joy turns to dread, where new life draws something old and hungry from the dark. Subscribe to the vault and never walk alone again. Listen in the dark, watch with the lights off. And if you ever hear a voice through the monitor that doesn't belong to you, don't answer it. Daniel and Claire had waited years for this moment. Their first child, a little girl named Hazel, had finally come home from the hospital. The house felt alive with warmth, fresh flowers, soft lullabies, and the quiet joy of exhausted new parents. Every corner of their small suburban home had been prepared for her. The nursery was spotless. Pale yellow walls, a small wooden crib, a mobile that spun with soft animals overhead. The new baby monitor glowed faintly blue on the nightstand beside the bed. For the first few nights, everything was perfect. Hazel slept soundly. The monitor carried her gentle breaths into the room like a heartbeat. Daniel would whisper, "She's perfect," and Claire would smile, drifting to sleep to that steady sound. But on the fourth night, Claire woke to something different. Through the soft static of the monitor came a faint click, like someone adjusting the receiver. Then a whisper. Not Hazel's cry, not Daniel's breathing, just words. Too low to make out, but distinctly human. Claire blinked into the dark. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Daniel stirred. "It's interference. These things pick up signals all the time." But Claire kept listening. The whisper came again. Closer, clearer. A voice, soft and drawn out, almost humming. "Don't let her cry." She froze. Her chest tightened. She sat up, staring at the monitor. The screen flickered, the dim infrared light shifting. There was movement in Hazel's room, a shape leaning over the crib. Claire gasped and ran. When she burst into the nursery, the air was still. Hazel slept peacefully. The crib was empty except for her. The figure was gone. She stood there, trembling, the faint lullaby mobile spinning gently on its own. The next morning, Claire tried to convince herself it was a dream. The days were long, and she was exhausted. But as evening fell, that tension returned. Every night, after Hazel was fed and laid to rest, Claire would sit on the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on the monitor. The blue light felt colder now. The whispers came more often, sometimes soft humming, other times something that almost sounded like words. Daniel checked the system, even replaced it with a new monitor, but the voice returned. "She cries because she remembers." Claire's heart sank the first time she heard it clearly. A woman's voice, soft and cracked, like someone speaking through water. Hazel began to cry at odd hours, not with hunger or pain, but with terror. Her tiny body would shudder in her crib. When Claire picked her up, she felt a chill against her neck, as if something brushed past her. Neighbors began to notice lights flickering through the nursery window late at night. One even mentioned seeing a silhouette standing inside, long and thin, swaying over the crib. Daniel stayed up to prove it was all in her head. He set up a camera beside the monitor, but when he checked the footage the next morning, the entire recording had been replaced by static, except for 1 second at the end. In that second, a shadow leaned close to the camera lens. Its face was pale and wrong, its mouth too wide, eyes black and glistening. It smiled, and the audio hissed. "You let her come home, but I never left." Claire found the truth in the hospital records, buried in papers no one should have kept. Years ago, in the same maternity ward where Hazel was born, a stillborn infant had been left unattended in an incubator overnight. The nurse who discovered it took her own life weeks later. Her name was Evelyn Harper. When Claire saw the name, her stomach dropped. Hazel's middle name, Harper, the same name she had chosen, thinking it sounded beautiful. That night, Hazel cried harder than ever. The monitor screamed with static. The air in the house grew dense and cold. Daniel rushed to the nursery while Claire watched the screen in horror. There she was, A woman's figure, bent and twisted, standing over the crib. Her skin gray, her hair wet and stringy, her eyes hollow. She looked up directly into the monitor. "You took her name. You took my child's name." The lights burst. The monitor snapped off. Daniel shouted from the nursery, but when Claire reached him, he was standing frozen, staring down at the crib. Hazel was silent, but unharmed. The entity stood behind him, a black silhouette now filling the entire corner of the room. The mobile spun violently, the animals twisting in the air. The shadow's voice filled the space, soft, trembling, yet filled with rage. "Give her back." Claire stepped forward, holding Hazel tight. "You can't have her," she whispered. "She's mine." For a moment, silence. Then the figure screamed, an inhuman, tearing sound that shattered the glass of the picture frames. It lunged forward and vanished. The nursery went still. The only sound was Hazel's breathing. The morning light didn't bring relief. It only exposed how wrong the house felt. The warmth that once filled the nursery had drained away, leaving the air heavy and motionless. Daniel boarded up the cracks in the walls, replaced light bulbs, scrubbed the floor where glass had shattered, but the chill never left. The baby monitor stayed unplugged. Claire couldn't even look at it without feeling her throat tighten. It had become an object of quiet terror, sitting on the dresser like a relic from another world. At first, things were quiet. No voices, no whispers. Hazel slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Claire began to convince herself that whatever had taken hold of them had finally lifted. But the silence carried its own kind of unease, too complete, too deliberate, like something holding its breath. One night, Claire woke to the sound of Hazel giggling through the wall, a soft, delighted sound, the kind that should have brought comfort. But then she heard another sound, an answering laugh, soft and airy, not her own. She rushed to the nursery. Hazel was awake, smiling into the darkness above her crib. The mobile turned slowly, though no wind stirred the room. Claire froze, unable to look away. "Hazel," she whispered, "who are you smiling at?" Her daughter's tiny hand reached upward toward nothing. For just a moment, the air shimmered. A shape flickered beside the crib. Thin arms, a long shadow bending down, a whisper too faint to understand. Then it was gone. Claire stood there for a long time, holding Hazel, rocking her until her own tears soaked the baby's blanket. She didn't tell Daniel. Some truths only lived in the dark. Days passed, then weeks. They tried to return to normal life. Doctor visits, family calls, soft laughter at the dinner table. But a tension hummed beneath everything. Daniel still woke sometimes in a cold sweat, convinced he had heard someone humming down the hall. One evening, Claire took Hazel for a walk through the quiet neighborhood. The air was cool and heavy with the scent of rain. As they passed the old oak tree near the driveway, Hazel reached out again, her little hand stretching toward the empty space beside them. Claire felt the temperature drop. She turned slowly, and for the briefest heartbeat, she saw her. A woman standing by the curb, pale as mist, her wet hair clinging to her face. Her lips moved soundlessly, mouthing words Claire couldn't hear. Then she vanished into the dusk, leaving only the faint echo of a lullaby carried by the wind. Claire walked faster after that. When she reached the porch, she looked back one last time. The road was empty, but the shadows between the streetlights seemed deeper than before. That night, Claire packed away everything connected to Hazel's birth. Hospital papers, ultrasound photos, even the tiny bracelet with her name engraved on it. She placed the baby monitor on top of the box and sealed it shut. Daniel carried it to the attic, and together they watched the hatch close, as if burying something they never wanted to awaken again. For a while, peace returned. Hazel grew stronger, more curious, her laughter bright and pure. The house breathed again. But sometimes, late at night, Claire would hear faint static whispering through the vents. She would press her ear to the wall and catch a sound, soft, rhythmic, almost like a hum. a lullaby she didn't recognize. Weeks later, Daniel went to the attic to fix a leak. When he returned, his face was pale. He told Claire the box had been moved, not opened, just shifted from one corner to another. There were faint fingerprints in the dust, too small to be his, too large to be Hazel's. That night, Claire dreamed she was back in the nursery. The mobile turned above the crib, spinning slowly. The monitor on the nightstand glowed blue again, though it should have been gone. Through the static came the voice of a woman humming gently, almost lovingly. "She remembers me." The next morning, the monitor sat on the kitchen counter, plugged in, powered on. The faint sound of a lullaby filled the air, accompanied by the quiet crackle of static. Claire unplugged it, but the humming didn't stop. It grew softer, drifting through the house like a memory that refused to fade. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Daniel found Claire sitting in the nursery, holding Hazel close. The child was calm, smiling. The air was still. The mobile turned once, twice, then stopped. Claire looked up at him and whispered, "She just wanted to be remembered." Outside, in the reflection of the nursery window, a second figure stood behind them, watching, silent, face half hidden in the dark, a faint glimmer of white eyes, a ghost of a smile. The reflection blinked and disappeared. The house stayed quiet after that. The whispering ceased. But the monitor, sealed once more in the attic, occasionally clicks on by itself, only for a moment, only long enough for a single hum to echo through the walls. It still hungers. Subscribe to the vault and never walk alone again. Listen in the dark. Watch with the lights off. And if your baby monitor ever whispers back, unplug it. Some voices aren't meant to be heard. We upload daily, and one night, the story may be yours. If you have a story of your own, please feel free to add it in the comments. You never know. The next story could be yours. See you on the next video.